Okay, welcome everyone to this fourth module, fourth lecture, designing incentives to manage the sustainability in our Web3 games. Again, we're going to be going over how to build economies that don't collapse, and I'm your instructor, and my name is Kwame. So an overview of what we're going to go over is why do incentives in our designs matter? What are some of the risks with, over rewarding players in the game, and how we can balance the emission of the tokens and have that balance the player retention? Kind of giving when we're talking about in the last lecture, we had the game loop and the economic loop. And this is where these two parts coincide. So, what are incentives? Well, they're mechanisms to guide player behavior. We have, a set of goals that a player needs to do to start the game and to end a specific level. And what are those things in between that the player can get puzzles that they can solve? So, as some examples here, we have earning rewards, unlocking new features, gaining status. And good incentives align fun with the economic health of the game. So if you are not really understanding where this part comes from, go to the last lectures or review the lectures prior where we talk about the game loop and the economic loop. So common incentive tools, especially in Web3 games, we have, staking rewards, daily login bonuses. I love this one. This is a great one to have, especially within the Voxelverse as a case study. The player logs in every day to keep their multipliers and their rewards topped up at a high level. So you're incentivized to log into the game every day, fulfill out some goals, and keep that balanced. Leaderboards and seasonal rewards. This is another great one. So after, say, like a week of gameplay, you send out rewards to the top players. And then, of course, we have, DAO participation and other types of voting perks. So, what are some of the problems that we can run into when we have a poor design that is based around this incentive mechanism? Well, one of the big ones, and this was found also in the Axie's Smooth Love Potion, is that you get this hyperinflation from excessive rewards. Another thing is that if you're, overinflating the game with a lot of tokens, then players who have excess of tokens that they don't need in the game but have some monetary value will basically, dump these tokens. Short-term profit seekers ruin the community. So people, as I mentioned before, kind of jumped a point here, but they're gaining a lot of tokens and then dropping these on the community or just on the markets themselves, and token drains with no burn mechanisms. Okay, so you have places in the game where players can gain a lot of tokens, but they're not being, taken away from circulation. They're gained. There's a lot of them. They can be used, traded, swapped, but there's no way to basically bring that down and make the token deflationary to some extent. So strategies for creating sustainable incentives in our games. One is having a dynamic reward scaling, and this can be based on players' activity or some other kind of mechanic that you're using. The most important for Web3 games, and this is a must-have, is to have some kind of deflationary mechanics. So inside of the Voxelverse, you gain these tokens, Prospect, and then you use Prospect in order to, mint out new items. And when you mint out these new items, the token is actually it's burnt, right? So you are, balancing the amount of tokens that are into the system because there's actually a need. So let's take a case study where we have a game. We'll use the Voxelverse as an example. Your player goes through, they're using their pickaxe, they go in there, they're mining, they gain, 3 prospect. And then on their plot of land, they want to plant some corn, right? And they have to use 1 prospect to do that. Or say that they need to, mint out some other kind of item. So they're earning this token in the game, and then there's a direct need or direct use case for that specific token. Milestone, best facing and unlocks, allowing players that, to gain tokens to, stake these tokens, vote on proposals, reward other players, reputation and skill-based rewards. So these are all things that say that a player lasts for a week and they get a reputation skill or some special NFT that is, minted to the player's character. How can we retain players over time? This one is, again, really tough, but there's some general ideas that we can take from Web 2 when we're building out our Web 3 games. Now, having incentives must evolve with the game progression. Okay, so there is a step ladder to these types of incentives. The longer you play, the further you're getting along in the game, the more reputation that you have. These things should be rewarded. Introduce new features tied to economic economy. So we were talking about how every game will have an underlying economy to it. Now, when we tie Web3 game mechanics to this economic activity, you can add new features. The best way that we've found to do this is by quests, because quests can be like mapped, say, with a signing of a signature when you start the quest. You do some things in the game, you sign another message behind the scenes. You don't want things popping up and disturbing gameplay. And then on the completion, they sign another message. And then there's like this breadcrumb as they've gone through and completed these particular tasks, which allows you to enhance the security as well. Reward loyalty, not just activity. So loyalty, they're engaged, they're playing, they're doing all the stuff, they're, fulfilling these milestones in the game. Reward that. Reward the players that are, doing things the right way. And honestly, just really enjoying the game. And you want to incentivize these players as these are the bedrock and the foundation of your game and ultimately your community as well. Create meaningful and long-term goals. So this one really depends on the type of game. These work better in, the survival games, RTS, RPG type games, where you can have these long, involved, goals and trajectories for the player itself. Case study, success and failure. Illuvium, structure staking and gameplay utility, failure, and the early access reliance on the inflationary earnings. And we can basically learn from each. And there's a lot of other really, well done Web3 games that have, solved this. And there will be other lectures where we'll just like take a game, play it, and learn from it. See if we can add that to our toolbox. Well, coming down to this slide says it all. It's a balancing act. So don't overpay or underpay players, right? You want to kind of keep like a carrot in front of them where they're gaining enough to keep on doing these things. Maybe they have a little bit extra to, reap some of the rewards, but not enough that they honestly don't need it and they have so much of it that the only thought for them to do is to get rid of it. Simulate before launching tokenomics. So we want to simulate how this is going to work in the real world. How many tokens are going to be released uh, based on the amount of players or the amount of activity, and keeping a really good balance between this. Now we want to tune our games for fun and the overall sustainability of the in-game economy. And economic systems should serve gameplay and not replace it. And this is a really important part. Remember that Web3 games are games, right? The Web3 part is a lot about the on-chain ownership, the on-chain ability to track, things like players' balances, making sure there's, no cheating going on. It's really used as a very enhanced database when it comes to blockchain games. I know I'm going to get like tarred and feathered for basically saying that. But really, as game developers, we're using blockchains in the Web3 sense as better databases. And a lot of the programmability that we have with these tokens in this decentralized network allow for things that, game developers have dreamt about for a long time, but just never really had the tools to do it. But now we do. So what's coming up next? Module 5. Economic simulations and modelings. We're going to use tools like CAD to test stress our, in-game economies. And this is where we really start, taking all these ideas from the previous lectures and start really creating, really good use cases. So that's it for me in this lecture, and I'll see you guys in the next one.